Meditation. I'm keeping God's command, keeping God's command.
All right, Israel. All right, believers in Christ. All right, it's Midweek Meditations. Another Wednesday, another time to get ourselves together, to gather ourselves together, to sharpen a little iron, to meditate on the scriptures. I know a lot of people are busy throughout the week, don't have time to read for themselves, don't have time to watch 3 hours worth of a class. But, you know, maybe this is that time that you have where you have a few moments out of your day, the hump day, the middle of the week, right after work, to just get a little spiritual rejuvenation. That's what Midweek Meditations is all about. So I'm glad for those who have joined in today. And I'm glad for the opportunity for myself to be right here in front of this screen, in front of this computer, in front of this social media audience, to just share what I've been meditating on throughout the week. It's a good opportunity to do that. Thank the Lord. If you could, please go and share the broadcast. Share the broadcast. Invite some friends, some family, some loved ones to see it. That way we can get this gospel spread across the four corners of this earth a little bit quicker. We know that that's going to happen before Christ returns. And one of the many methods is going to be through social media. Other methods is going to be live and direct in your face in person when we travel across the world, when we deal with the people right in our neighborhood, our coworkers, our family members, the people we see often. But regardless, there's going to be an effort. There has got to be an effort to spread this gospel so that Christ can return and set this world in its proper bounds, set everything back in order. So please just share the broadcast. And if you will, go ahead and look at those social media icons there. And let's go and subscribe to the different social media platforms so that you are able to utilize your favorite social media platform. Today, we're actually broadcasting on Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube, doing a little testing, seeing how some things work out. But if it becomes that these are your favorite platforms, the intention is that we're able to get those to your favorite platforms and not just Facebook only. So please go ahead, hit up Periscope and Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest as well. And on YouTube, we need more subscribers. So go and look for Midweek Meditation on YouTube so that we can get a custom handle. Until then, we're only going to have this random number. But I will post these things for you guys to see. So please go ahead and subscribe. Now, it's the middle of the week, as we said. Midweek Meditations, the goal is to be able to help you get to the Sabbath when you get that spiritual rejuvenation with your friends and your family, in that Sabbath fellowship setting. But until then, while you're stuck at your job, while you're stuck in the middle of the week at school, and you're unable to get to those who you would love to be around, this is what we have for you, Midweek Meditations. All right. So with that, let's talk about the subject at hand. Who saw the title? The title is The Subtle Art of Shutting Up. The Subtle Art of Shutting Up. Some of y'all are wondering, what the hell? What is going on? What is AE Israel going to talk about with this? What is the reason for this discussion? Well, remember, this is Midweek Meditations. This is what I've been meditating on. This is what I'm thinking about, and I'm bringing my meditation public so that you can join in with me and we can kind of go back and forth together. That's why I encourage you to share the broadcast. That's why I encourage you to send messages throughout the week. If you have a recommendation on what you would like to talk about, what you would like to meditate on, bring it forth. Send me a message and let that be known. But the subtle art of shutting up, the problem with a lot of our people is we haven't learned that subtle art. We have not learned the art of shutting up. I don't know about y'all, but for me, the world that I grew up in, the world that I live in, the people that I know, some of them take pride in being able to out-talk the next person. Some of them take pride in being able to out-argue the next person, to be able to have the loudest mouth. But what I've learned through reading the scriptures, through meditating in the scriptures, sometimes you got to learn when to be quiet a little bit. Sometimes you should take pride in your ability to know when not to speak. And real quick, before I get too deep into it, I know last week we had a little bit of sound issues. Just let me know if you can hear, if you have any issues hearing. I'm going to check the sound real quick on my end. So from my end, I can hear it. So I'm just going to give a few moments for people to just give me a why, yes, you can hear, and then I'm going to get back to the topic, okay? And I'm going to check my other platforms as well real quick. We got a few people on different platforms today, all praises. Look like Periscope is acting up, so let me check Periscope real quick, and then we're going to get started. I ain't going to hold you too long. I am not going to hold you too long. Thank you for bearing with me and having the patience to deal with me, though. So it looks like Periscope is acting up, and I am not going to deal with it. If it don't work, it don't work. And we'll figure it out for next time. All right, so the subtle art of shutting up. Let's talk about it. So the first thing I want to do is define these words that I've chosen to use. Subtle is a word that maybe we don't all know. Maybe we need a little understanding on. So we're going to get the definition of subtle before we even get the first scripture so that we can understand why we come in here. All right. So the definition of subtle is as follows. We're going to pick the appropriate definition because all of these definitions are not appropriate to the topic. Let's go with definition 2. It says fine or delicate in meaning or intent, difficult to perceive or understand. So the word subtle and the subtle art of shutting up, sometimes it's going to be a delicate meaning behind why you've decided to be quiet, why you've decided to shut up. It may be difficult for others to perceive why that you have decided, instead of doing your normal routine of over talking another person, your normal routine of out talking, being a little louder, or always having a rebuttal, you may have a reason that others may not understand why you decided to just hold your tongue. It says number 3 is delicate or faint and mysterious. Number 4, requiring mental acuteness, penetration, or discernment. Characterized, number 5, by mental acuteness or penetration, cunning, wily, and crafty. So sometimes in your subtle art of being quiet, of shutting up, there's a little bit of craftiness or wiliness to it, but there's some acuteness to it too. Let's get the definition of acute. Okay. Acute. And don't think of it like the little triangle, that you learned about in grade school. Don't think of it as a baby. Oh, that's a cute little baby. I know that we get with our Ebonics sometimes, and we turn a phrase into a word, and it becomes a new word in the hip-hop dictionary, in urbandictionary.com or something. But we're using dictionary.com. We're using the approved dictionary by the powers that be. And the word acute means sharp or severe in effect. So sometimes the subtle art of shutting up, there's a severe effect. There's an intense effect that it gives off. And that's maybe the reason why you've chosen to use this art. Extreme, extremely great or serious, crucial or critical. Okay. Number 4, we're going to skip 3. 4, sharp or penetrating in intellect. So if you've begun to learn to master the subtle art of shutting up, you may have a high intellect. You may be a very smart person. You may have a lot of insight or perception. It says, number 5, extremely sensitive even in slight details or impressions. Okay. Now, let's get the word art. And then we're going to get right into the scriptures. The subtle art of shutting up. Now, I'm trying to get with you. I'm trying to bring you to what I was meditating on. I just want to share what I was meditating on because I felt that it was going to be helpful in my life. And if it's helpful in mine, maybe it's going to be helpful in yours. So the word art. In the title of the class, the topic of the class is the subtle art, the meditation, if you will, the subtle art of shutting up. Art is the quality or production, expression, or realm according to aesthetic principles. So there's an aesthetic principle behind shutting up. There's an art to it. There's a beautiful thing. It says of what is beautiful, appealing, or more than ordinary significance. There is a significance to shutting up. Okay. Let's skip down to the last portion, which says any field using the skills or techniques of art. The skills or techniques. So there's an art to shutting up. The topic is the subtle art of shutting up. All right. So now we're going to get into the scriptures. Think about the definitions that we just used. Think about the topic and the title that is at hand. And now we're going to go into the Bible and relate to these things. So we're going to start with Ecclesiastes 9 and verse 17. Now, Ecclesiastes was written by a man that was very wise. And if we can get anything from this wise man, it might help us to be more wise. So we're going to start here, verse 17. It says, "The words of wise men are heard in quiet, more than the cry of him that ruleth among fools." Stop. Let it marinate. Let it meditate. I was meditating on this. I'm praying that others are going to meditate on it as well. It's going to be good for you. Midweek meditations, the goal is to give you something that you can take right after the pause, the stop button is hit, and use it in your life immediately. You don't have to wait for someone else to correct you. You can take the scriptures and correct yourself, and don't let another man or woman or whoever have to bring it to you because you're out of order. Just go ahead and apply the scriptures to your life. That's why you meditate on the scriptures immediately. It says, "The words of wise men are heard in quiet, more than the cry of him that ruleth among fools." Now, the cry of them that ruleth among fools is, first off, look at the word cry, meaning it's a loud outburst that really don't nobody want to hear. Who loves to hear a baby cry? Who loves to hear a toddler cry? Who loves to hear a grown-up cry? Nobody likes to hear someone cry. So it's letting you know that the person that's speaking here, this person could be saying something that nobody wants to hear. It says the cry of him, that person that ruleth among fools. This person that speaks, he speaks in a manner that only fools are really adhering to. And he's the chief of all the fools. He rules among the fools. But in Ecclesiastes, it's letting us know that the words of wise man is heard in quiet more than that person that is shouting at the top of their lungs. That is the loudest one in the room, the one that speaks the most. The words of a wise man are heard in quiet. So if we are to be considered wise, we have to learn how to be heard more in quiet than in that loud, obnoxious situation. We have to learn how to express ourselves and communicate in a manner that is not so obtrusive to other people's lives and to make people not want to hear you. Because when I hear a cry, and those who have children know what I'm talking about, we don't want to hear it. We would rather find any way to quiet that cry. You have a baby, you're like, okay, do you need a bottle? Do you need a pacifier? Do you need a diaper change? Do you need to be rocked to sleep? If you're crying, what can I do to shut you up? So you're not looking to hear the cry. You're looking to mute the cry. You're looking to silence the cry so that it is no longer heard. But the words of a wise man are heard more than that cry. So as loud as that baby could cry, as loud as that toddler could cry, as long as they could cry, your words, if you're wise, can be more impactful and can be heard more than that cry. It says in verse 18, "Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroyeth much good." So in like manner, because these verses are following one after another, the words of a man are heard in quiet more than a cry. So is the wisdom is better than the weapons of a war, because weapons are supposed to have a huge impact. If I were to have a gun or a knife or something of that manner, a lot could be done. A bomb, it's going to make a loud noise. It's going to have a huge impact. But wisdom is going to have an even larger impact. So your words, even though a cry, everybody can hear it. It disrupted the whole room when the baby was crying in a room that was quiet. But your wise words can have much bigger, much larger impact than the words of a fool that's crying out. So let's go to Sirach, Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha. Now we know, if you look into the Sirach and what this is about, this is a book of wisdom as well. This is just like Proverbs, but in the Apocrypha. And so we're going to get some wisdom today. And the wisdom is about the subtle art of shutting up, because only a wise man or woman can understand this. A fool may not. And you have to understand if you're that wise or that fool and correct yourself where someone else don't have to do it. Because last thing you want is for someone to call you a fool. The last thing you want is for someone to come at you and tell you about yourself and you not be willing to receive it. So it's better that you receive it from yourself than someone else. So as you meditate on these scriptures, you are able to bring them forth within your spirit and change your spirit so that you can have a good Sabbath. So, Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, chapter 7, chapter 20, verse 7, chapter 20 and verse 7. It says, a wise man will hold his tongue till he see opportunity, but a babbler and a fool will regard no time. So all of us think of ourselves as wise. I know nobody thinks themselves as fools, right? A wise man will hold his tongue till he see opportunity. Sometimes it's not the right time to open up and say what you got to say. Now, as I was saying, I know you all know that person. You may be that person. But we all know that person that's going to say what's on their mind, say how they feel whenever. But in wisdom, we should understand that it's not always the opportune time. Sometimes it might be best to shut up. Let me give you some examples. For y'all who are paying attention to what's going on in the world, it's very rough out there for a black man in front of the cops. And you know what? You may have seen some videos where even the cop may have done wrong, shot the guy, the man, the black man, and got away with it. In the sense of he was not found in any wrongdoing, and the courts did not give him any punishment for it. But go back to those videos, examine those videos. A lot of times somebody did something and they were wrong as well. The person who got shot may have been wrong. The person in the passenger seat may have been wrong. Somebody may have been wrong in that situation. And the wrong they did is they didn't see that it was not the time to open your mouth. It was time to hold your tongue. I've seen situations where people are arguing with the cops, expressing that I know my rights and you're not going to do this to me, and I'm not going to put the phone away, and I'm doing whatever they can to run their mouth at the person with authority over them in that moment. The person that has a gun and is more than likely going to be found not guilty for the wrong that you're going to say that they've done and the court case that we may go into. And if you had learned the subtle art of shutting up, it could have been beneficial to you, because guess what? In that moment where the cop is doing something and maybe being rude, intimidating, trying to catch you on something, you have to understand that you don't know all the police training and tactics and why they may be saying the things that they're saying. You don't know why they stopped you, because there may be someone who you do actually fit the description. Unfortunately, you do actually fit the description. And when they pull you over, they're trying to see if you are that person or not. And you have to learn the subtle art so that you don't increase the issue, the circumstance, the elevation of that thing, and cause more trouble than is necessary. So it says a wise man will hold his tongue till he see opportunity. It may not be your opportunity to speak. Everybody thinks because they have a mouth that they have the right to speak and it's their opportunity to speak. But in wisdom, since we go into Sirach, since we go into Ecclesiasticus, it may not be that time. It says, but a babbler and a fool will regard no time. A lot of times we show ourselves to be fools by speaking at the time that we're speaking. You may not realize it, but it just may not be the time. And if you have gained and increased the wisdom that you need to have, then shut up. That may be a better time for you to speak on it. It may be a better time for you to speak on it. It may be a better tone for you to speak in. It may be a better person for you to speak to. But you know how we do. You know how people do. You may be that person or you may know that person. So it says in verse 8, he that uses many words shall be abhorred. Now, I'm not going to pull the dictionary up, but abhorred means to be hated. How many of you know a person, or you know you're that person, that you talk so much, or that person talks so much that don't nobody want to hear what you got to say. They're tired of it. They don't want to be around you. They can't stand to be around you because they know that you're going to run your mouth. I want to watch the movie. Why won't you be quiet? I just got off of work. Why won't you be quiet? It's my time to talk. You've been talking the whole time. Can I reply? Can I answer the question that you've asked me? Why won't you be quiet? It says, he that useth many words will be abhorred, and he that taketh to himself authority therein shall be hated. Because what happens in these scenarios is you begin to put yourself in a position to where you're the authority over the conversation. You deem when someone else gets to speak. You deem when someone else gets to stop listening. And you beat down the person that is trying to be spoken to, that you're trying to speak to, and to the point in which they don't want to hear it. They hate the fact that they have to have a conversation with you. So as I meditate on these scriptures, I say, how do I be a better conversationalist to where someone won't hate me when I open my mouth? Do I talk too much? Do I talk at the wrong times? These are the things that I have to ask myself as I meditate on the scriptures, because the scriptures are meant for you to examine yourself. So as I look through these verses, I said, okay, maybe it's more opportunity for me to hold my tongue, hold my peace, and to be seen as wise, or to not be hated at least. So now somebody knows a person that needs to hear this. So you need to get on and share the class. If you're on Facebook, share. If you're on Instagram, Twitter, or whatever, find a place to share this class, because somebody needs to hear it. I see in the comments that somebody said they need the class. Well, it's a lot more people that probably need the class as well, and they just not admitting it. And I like that somebody put up the precept. I'm not one for following the comments very well, because once I get rolling, I get rolling. But I'm looking at the comments, and it's some people saying some wise statements here. You got a brother that says, better to be quiet and thought of a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. That's a ancient proverb that many people know. And the thing is, you could be the dumbest person in the room, but if you don't talk and show how dumb you are, nobody will know. A lot of people are so quick to show how dumb and foolish they are. You know, a lot of times that happens when you speak on a subject that you don't fully understand, or you jumped in somebody's conversation and you didn't even know the fullness of the conversation. You got somebody talking about agree with the adversary quickly. That's right. That goes back to what I was saying about if you were to be pulled over by the cops. All right, next. It says, verse 13. Let's skip down to 13. A wise man by his words maketh him beloved, but the graces of fools shall be poured out. So once again, you can be hated by your words, but you can also be loved by your words. If you know when to speak, how to speak, to who to speak to, it will make you look good. It will make you well loved. You know, a lot of people have ruined their reputation by saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, by speaking to the wrong person out of turn and out of authority. And we have to work on that. There's an art to it. There's an art to looking good in front of people. And there's a subtle art to shutting up. Sometimes you may want to speak, or someone may want you to speak on a subject and reply to something. But you're not equipped. You're not prepared. You're not the right person to speak on that subject. And if it's wisdom, people will notice that you chose wisely to hold your peace, to wait, to be cautious, to be a little patient in that. All right, so let's go to Proverbs. Now we're hitting all the different books of wisdom today. All the different books of wisdom today. Proverbs chapter 26, verse 4. I'm going to let y'all get it, take a sip, because I've been talking so much that I need a drink of water. And some of us, we do that. We talk so much that we dry ourselves out. And that's why somebody is not happy with you speaking, because you didn't take a breath. So I'm going to take a breath. All right. Thank you. Okay. So Proverbs 26, verse 4. It says, answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou also be like unto him. Answer not a fool, because I know some of us got this experience where a fool has come up to you with these questions or these statements, and they trying to get you to join in on the bandwagon and either say what they're saying or trap you up and trip you up in your sayings. Brothers who have gone out to camp know what I'm saying. People who have tried to spread the gospel to their friends and their families and their loved ones, but those people weren't really trying to listen and receive the gospel. They were just trying to make you look bad. It says, answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou also be like unto him. Because what will happen if you fall into that trap and you answer that fool in his folly, you become a fool with him. Because another ancient proverb that people should know is that no one can tell the difference between two people arguing which one is the wise one and which one is the foolish from a distance. Both of you look like fools. So if you're entertaining a fool, you're going to make yourself look like a fool. Be careful with that. Let that marinate. Meditate on the proverb and the Sirach and the Ecclesiastes, because these things are going to help bring you to a point in which you don't have to look foolish any longer. A lot of us have been foolish all our lives, but through the Bible, we have become wise. So it says in verse 5, answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own conceit. So you have to know when not to answer a fool, because you're going to look like a fool, and you have to know when to answer a fool so that you can keep him from feeling as if he knows everything, or she. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own conceit, because others will begin to believe them, that fool, over you, because you sat back and didn't know when to open your mouth. There's a time and place for everything. Verse 6, he that sendeth a message by the hand of a fool cutteth off the feet. So, and it says, and drinketh damage. If you send a message by a fool, by the hand of a fool, the message is really not even getting sent, because she's going to add so much extra foolishness to that statement that the wisdom that you tried to deliver got caught up and overtaken by the foolishness of the messenger. So we have to know who to send our messages by, who to allow to represent us and to tell our story at times. You can't let a fool tell your story, because then the real message ain't going to get delivered. Sometimes you have to be ready and willing to deliver your own message. And this is wisdom on when to speak, when not to speak, according to the Bible. So, as I know it's somebody that's like, dang, that's me. Share the broadcast so that your friends understand, your family understand that you're trying to get yourself together. You don't want to be the one hated every time you speak. Brothers, sisters, I'm trying to work on myself so that I don't always get the sigh of bitterness when I open my mouth. Here you go again. Here come that brother. Here come this sister. Always got something to say. Share the broadcast for them. But then you know the person that needs to hear this, because they are that brother. They are that sister. They the ones that you can't get enough. You can't get away from soon enough, because you know when they start talking, they're going to wear you out with their words. Here come the foolish talker. So share the broadcast. Remember, we need to share it so we can spread this gospel. And remember, I'm trying to get the followers up. I'm trying to get the followers up on each of these different social medias. I'm trying to get the YouTube up in particular. So go to YouTube and look up Midweek Meditations. Matter of fact, I'm going to share the broadcast with you just so you can grab it real quick and subscribe. I need them subscribers, okay? Let me grab that real quick. Bear with me. Be patient. Be patient. And while I'm quiet, you gotta, take a moment to share the broadcast. See how I did that? All right, so the next scripture that we're about to go to is Proverbs 10. Proverbs 10, chapter 14. Proverbs 10, chapter 14. in the subtle art of shutting up. All right, it says, wise men lay up knowledge, but the mouth of the foolish is near destruction. So if you're wise, you're going to lay up knowledge within your head before you spew it out. It's good to gain wisdom before you speak, because if you have no wisdom and then you speak, you're speaking nothing but foolishness. It's good to educate yourself and study up and be wise in what you say before you say it. Because if you open your mouth, you're going to destroy your reputation, destroy those around you. You're going to destroy a lot of things in your foolishness. I used to have to say this to people, and you know, some people didn't like that I said it, but I said it because I meant it and it was true. One person used to tell me, you think you know everything. And I said, no, you think I know everything, because I'm always quiet until I know what I'm talking about. When I know what I'm talking about, then I speak up. So only time I was speaking up is when I was knowledgeable about the subject. So it seemed to that person that I knew everything. But there were so many things that I didn't know, but I didn't speak on them because I didn't know. So it says, wise men lay up knowledge. I was laying up knowledge, and I learned to speak when the time was good for me to speak. But when I spoke, it was a speech of authority and knowledge and wisdom and understanding. And when I was quiet, it was because I did not have the authority in that moment. I did not have the knowledge or the wisdom and understanding, so I allowed someone else to speak. So it says again, wise men lay up knowledge, but the mouth of the foolish is near destruction. Meditate. Think about that. Are you the wise man laying up knowledge, the wise woman laying up knowledge? Or are you the one that's destructive with your tongue? Destructive with your mouth? Because a lot of people are going to be destructive with their spouse, with their children, with their friends and their family, as opposed to being knowledgeable and building up their friends, their family, their spouse, their children. Midweek Meditations is talking about it today. It's talking about the subtle art of shutting up. So Sirach, Ecclesiasticus again, because we're going to be in all the books of knowledge today. 1 and 19. 1 and 19. Now remember what we talked about. We defined the word subtle. We were defining the word acute because that was one of the definitions. We defined the word art, and it talked about there's a skill behind being subtle. There's a skill behind any art. So wisdom is going to tell you this. Sirach chapter 1 verse 19. Wisdom reigneth down skill and knowledge of understanding, and standing and exalting them to honor that hold her fast. If you have wisdom, it's going to rain down skill. Once you understand this subtle art of shutting up, then it becomes a skill in which you can teach others. It becomes a skill in which others can see that you are skilled in it, and they will begin to respect that you utilize that skill. It says, wisdom reigneth down skill and knowledge of understanding, standing and exalting them to honor that hold her fast. You have to hold on to that skill. See, a lot of us, we think we know and have the skill, but it shows that you only know about it, but you're not exercised in the skill, because when a situation gets too severe, you will forget to use that skill set. You will forget to use that knowledge. Sometimes it just takes the right situation to provoke you to get outside of yourself and become that foolish person that is speaking once again. Sometimes it might be a little alcohol that gets you there. It may be a person that gets on your nerves that gets you there. It may be an opportunity that gets you there. But if it's a real skill, if you really have the knowledge, if you really have the understanding, you will hold on to that and use it in the right scenario, because it's not always the time to speak. So going back to the example that we use when you get pulled over by the cops, if you got the skill, no matter what that cop says to you, you will know to be quiet in that moment, because it's a life or death situation, because it's a scenario in which, unfortunately, you just don't have the preeminence there. You don't have the authority there, and you just have to do what you have to do. But a lot of people are like, he ain't gonna talk to me that way. You're not gonna disrespect me. I know my rights. Yeah, well, you got the right to shut up too. You have the right to shut up because that is one of the rights that is gonna keep you preserved in life. But it's unfortunate that our brothers and sisters have gone through scenarios where they might have lost their life by the hands of the police or whatever scenario it is, because that's just one example. But we have to learn from those past situations. What can we learn from it? And majority of these scenarios, we were trying to argue with the cops. I don't want to just get put in handcuffs. I don't want to just get put face down on the ground. However, I don't want that bullet either. I don't want to get choked out either. So I got to figure out what's the best thing to do in that scenario. And you know how scenarios can go. So it says, verse 20, the root of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. So having these sets of wisdom, which one of them is shutting up, it actually shows your fear of the Most High, because the Most High is teaching us through the scriptures when to be quiet. So if you really have fear of the Lord, it will show in your ability to exercise the subtle art of shutting up. And the branches thereof are long life. Now, I had to use these examples to show how our brothers and our sisters might have lost their life at an early point because they didn't exercise that point of wisdom. But we have this opportunity now that the scriptures are coming out in front of us. That's why we must meditate on the scriptures daily. That's why we must do more than just John 3:16. We must do more than just thou shalt not. We must do more than just any of the favorite scriptures that you have your ribbon next to, that you have highlighted. But we have to get all these different precepts and verses because they make us a well-rounded person. So remember, you got to share this broadcast with people because they need to hear it, because you don't want your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, your children to be the one that don't know when to shut up. You don't want to be that person either. So we just left Sirach 1:19, and we're going to keep reading actually. And verse 20 we read, 21, the fear of the Lord driveth away sins, and where it is present, it turneth away wrath. So having the fear of the Lord, the ability to understand when and when not to use your tongue, can drive away sins, that can drive away wrath. Because I know from experience that sometimes I done said some things that have brought forth wrath to people, that it made them mad. Some people done probably took joy in making somebody angry with their words. But we got to learn to not do that. Verse 22, a furious man cannot be justified. And guess what happens when we're furious? We run off at the mouth. You can't shut a furious person up. There's nothing you can say to that furious person. So you being on the opposite side of that in wisdom, you might know that there's nothing I can say that is going to stop or help this person right now. Maybe I should just stop and be quiet myself. Let that person have that conversation. I'm not trying to win every argument. I'm trying to win the battle that is here on this earth for us to get the kingdom. And that's more important for me than to win the argument. So it says a furious man cannot be justified, or woman, because you women get furious too and you will not shut up. No reason or rationale can come forward to you. Both parties end up in that situation. For the sway of his fury shall be his destruction. Remember what we read. Sometimes your foolish mouth leads to destruction. Your fury will lead to destruction. Okay, 23. A patient man will tarry for a time, and thereafter shall joy spring up upon him. If you're patient, if you can exercise patience within your speech, you will wait for a moment and learn that it's not the right time to speak. It's not the proper opportunity. It's not the proper person to deal with. Let me wait until the time is right. And the lips shall be declared, and afterward joy shall spring upon him, spring up unto him. There will be a joy that you receive from learning this subtle art of shutting up. You may have felt joy in telling somebody off, but there's a greater joy in not having to deal with the foolishness that was brought about by being the one that was foolish in his speech. Okay, and now I keep losing my spot, bear with me. Verse 24. He will hide his words for a time, and the lips of many shall declare his wisdom. So when you learn to hide your words for a time and wait to use them at the right opportunity, other people are going to declare yourself to be wise. Other people are going to exalt you because they see the wisdom that you took in the strategy and approach that you took. Because a lot of us, we trying to force people to believe that we're wise. You see, I do this and I do that and I know this and I know that. Look at me, I'm wise, I'm wise. But if you wait and use the right opportunity, other people will do it for you. Just like when I ask people to share the broadcast, if you see it as wisdom, other people are going to keep sharing the broadcast. But other people have to see it as wisdom. I can ask you to share the broadcast as much as I want, but if you don't see it as wisdom, it's not going to be that. So, it says, a patient man will tear for a time, and afterwards shall joy spring up unto him. He will hide his words for a time, and his lips, and the lips of many shall declare wisdom. The parables of knowledge are in the treasures of wisdom, but godliness is an abomination of a sinner. So those who don't see you as wise, they're not going to see it as wise. So you wasting your time and your breath trying to show the godliness to a sinner. It's an abomination to them. They don't want to hear it. So you got to take those parables of knowledge and know when to use them. Don't cast your pearls amongst the swine. So let's go down to chapter 5 and verse 9. It says, Sirach chapter 5 and verse 9. Winnow not with every wind, and go not into every way, for doth the sinner and hath a double tongue. For so doth the sinner that hath a double tongue. Winnow not with every wind, meaning don't get blown or taken in every direction. A lot of times in our conversations, whatever the person that you're talking to say, you follow right into it. Remember when you go to camp, a lot of times a new person at camp trying to preach the gospel on the streets. When we go out and preach the gospel on the streets, when we go out and preach the gospel to whoever, when you have a conversation with someone, they can just bait you and lead you into foolish conversations. Winnow not with every wind, and go not into every way. You know what you need to say, you hold to that course. And when someone wants to pull you off that course, that might be the time for you to say, well, I don't know about that. I don't need to speak on that. I don't want to speak on that. It may not be the time for you to speak. It may be time for you to learn to say, you know what? Let me just be quiet right now. He want to go in this direction. I'm not going in this direction. It says, be steadfast in thy understanding, and let thy word be the same. Your understanding should match your words that come out of your mouth. It's very hard for a person to correct their statement after it's already come out. Once someone has put it out, said what they had to say, someone is going to jump on your statement and say, you were wrong in that. And now when you say, that's not what I meant, well, let me rephrase that. It becomes very difficult. So you have to work on letting your understanding come out as it is supposed to come out. That's why the verse says this in 11. Be swift to hear, and let thy life be sincere, and with patience give answer. With what? With patience give answer. So we have to have more willingness to hear than to reply. Really understand what was just said. Maybe you should ask a question about what was said instead of giving an answer and a rebuttal so quickly. Be swift to hear. Be more willing to hear. That's why they say you were given 2 ears and 1 mouth so you can do twice as much listening as you do talking. And let thy life be sincere, and with patience give answer. When you give your answer, don't be so hasty to give it. Be patient so that you don't mess up what you had to say, so that you don't give it at the wrong time in the wrong season. If thou hast understanding, answer thy neighbor. If you have understanding, give the answer. If you don't have understanding, don't give an answer. Just shut up. If thou hast understanding, answer thy neighbor. If not, lay thy hand upon thy mouth. Honor and shame is in talk. Honor and shame is in talk, brothers, sisters. You can either create honor for yourself or shame for yourself. If you don't know what you're talking about, just shut up. Don't become the gossiper and the talebearer and the person who is just spreading rumors that they don't know nothing about. Don't become the person who is trying to act like you can teach someone, but you ain't really equipped to teach. You only know a couple of scriptures. Just because you memorized precepts don't make you the teacher. You got to get the context. So sometimes it's meant for you to lay your hand over your mouth. It's okay to say, I don't know. It's better to say, I don't know, than to say you do know and people looking at you like, really? That's the answer? Really? Okay, so it says honor and shame is in talk, and the tongue of man is his fall. We don't want that to be our destruction. We don't want our mouth to be the reason why we have fallen from an honorable seat. Be not called a whisperer, and lie not in wait with thy tongue. For a foul shame is upon the thief, and an evil condemnation upon the double tongue. It's comparing a person who's speaking out of turn and having to recant his statement and say multiple things with a thief. Now, if you think a thief is bad, well, so are you if you fit the category of the people that are using their mouth at the wrong time, speaking at the wrong time. So be not ignorant of anything in a great matter or small. So go and study up and research so that when it is your time to talk, then you speak in wisdom. Let's go to Proverbs 14:3. In the mouth of the foolish is a rod of pride, but the lips of the wise shall preserve them. One reason why some of us talk so much and always have something to say and feel that we can shut someone down with our conversation and don't know how to use the time and opportunity appropriately to speak is because we're full of pride. It says, in the mouth of the foolish is the rod of pride. You may be a prideful brother or a prideful sister. That may be why this class is for you, because you need to bring that pride down. Because I know, we all know that brother or sister that feel like they know everything. They feel like they got to run the show. You trying to do something for the people and speak to everybody, but they want it their way, like it's Burger King or something. My way or the highway type of people with that conversation. Well, that may be because they full of pride, and that's why they feel that they can overtalk you and tell you how it has to be, when maybe it's not that time for them. But the lips of the wise shall preserve them. Remember, pride will bring you toward destruction. Pride is when you've fallen away from the truth, from the commandments. If you want to be preserved, you got to get rid of that pride. So, let's get another scripture. This is Proverbs 18:6. A fool's lips, Proverbs 18:6. A fool's lips enter into contentions, and his mouth calleth for strokes. So, how many of us are very contentious, always getting into a contentious situation? And every contention, of course, it wasn't because you were sitting there in silence. It was because of something you said. You caused an argument, you caused a disagreement, and you caused it to escalate into something that it didn't have to be. You weren't the peacemaker. You were the one that said, I'm not going to back down in this conversation, so I'm going to cause a contention. Well, your mouth is causing strokes. That's the reason why you might have got punched in the face. You might have got punched in the mouth. The scriptures say don't be a striker, but you wasn't being righteous either, so therefore you got an unrighteous judgment. Who wants to get into a contentious situation? None of us should want it. If it's something that you actually take pride in and you enjoy, examine yourself, repent, get yourself together. Verse 7, a fool's mouth is in his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul. Think about that. That just said his soul. Your mouth can be the snare of your soul, which means your soul won't receive the salvation that we are trying to receive when Christ returns. Because if you die unrepentant, or Christ comes back and you're still alive unrepentant, What is going to happen to your soul? Well, your lips could have been a snare for it where it gets trapped into the destruction. Verse 8, the words of a talebearer are as wounds, and they go down into the innermost parts of the belly. Sometimes your mouth can be wounds to other people. But you want to tell somebody off so bad. You take pride in being the one who can out-argue. You as a woman take pride in being able to make your husband just get tired of talking because you've over-talked him. You children get tired. Wear your parents out maybe. Or you do this with your friends, your family, or whoever. There's a vice versa for it all. But there's a subtle art to shutting up. And there's some benefit to shutting up. So, where are we? Let's go. Proverbs 30 and 32. If thou hast done foolishly in lifting up thyself, Proverbs 30 and 32. I know I get to moving a little quick, but I'll slow it down. Let me get a drink while y'all get the scripture. Proverbs 30 and 32. If thou hast done foolishly in lifting up thyself, or if thou hast thought evil, lay thy hand upon thy mouth. So sometimes you may have said or done something foolish. The best thing to do is not say anything more. Just put your hand over your mouth. Just shut up, be quiet, and not make it worse for yourself. You've already dug the ditch. Now, it also says, or if thou hast thought evil. Sometimes you have a thought, and people, the first thing that they think comes out of their mouth. But we have to learn the first thing that we think stays in our head until we realize and understand if it's a good thought or an evil thought. If it's a good thought, is this the time to bring it out? If it is, bring it out. If it's not, wait until the opportune time. But some of us need this wisdom because we don't have that understanding. Sirach chapter 20, verse 20. These are the things I was meditating on because people in my life need to hear it, and I'm sure I can do better at it as well, so I meditate on it. And that's the thing. If you can acknowledge that you can work on something too, then you have a chance at repenting. If you can't acknowledge it, you ain't even going to be able to fix it. Sirach 20 and 20 says, a wise sentence shall be rejected when it come out of a fool's mouth, for he will not speak it in due season. So think about this. If you've talked so much and become that foolish person so many times in the eyes of other people, when you finally do have a moment of wisdom, ain't nobody trying to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it now because you are known and reputable to being that foolish person that speaks out of turn. So now you're going to have to wait and gain your reputation by silence, because remember we read earlier that keeping silent will make you look wise. Then when you've developed that wisdom reputation, when it's time to bring out your wise sentence, it will be easily entreated. It will be easily digested. People will receive it and not reject it. But if I'm the neighborhood fool, the wise thing that come out of my mouth, ain't nobody trying to hear. Oh, that's just the neighborhood fool speaking again. Meditate on it. Sirach 21 and 26. The heart of fools is in their mouth. I know we're talking about fools a lot, but that's what happens when you open your mouth when you ain't where you're supposed to be. In the mind you're supposed to be in, you become a fool. The heart of fools is in their mouth. The heart, remember the heart, we precept to be the mind. Meaning, the mind of a fool is shown and spewed out of their mouth. But the mouth of the wise is in their heart. The thing that the wise want to say, they keep it in their mind. They hold it until it's time to let it out. It says, when the ungodly curseth Satan, he curseth his own soul. Because guess what? A lot of times we bring these things out in foolish manner. It's in a time where we're actually looking like a hypocrite. We're actually looking like we're judging another when we need to remove the mote and the plank and the beam out of our own eye. So when the ungodly curse Satan, you cursing your own soul because you in an ungodly state and you trying to get at somebody else. But you're really cursing yourself because you need to correct and fix yourself. Verse 28, a whisperer defileth his own soul. So whatever you was whispering about and trying to tell on somebody else about, You're really making yourself look bad and more than the person that you're talking about. And is hated wheresoever he dwelleth. People don't like the whisperer. There's a person that you're whispering to and they're listening to you because they like the juicy gossip, which they need to get over that themselves. But deep down in their mind, they're saying, I know not to talk to this person. I ain't going to tell him my business. Because you're going to be hated for the attributes that you possess if those be negative attributes. Even though you might seem loved in a moment of them getting the gossip because that person needs to repent of their evil, they look at you as evil themselves. Sirach 18. Let's go to Romans 21 and 22. Because this is where we examine ourselves right here. It says, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. We have to understand that in all the wisdom that we think we have, we become fools once we realize that we've been doing it wrong this entire time. The Bible is beginning to expose us to understand that, you know what, I shouldn't be proud to be so argumentative, proud to be so able to break somebody down with my conversation, with my ability to argue or to be loud or to bring forth foolish knowledge. We have to dumb it down and start over and be taught again. So how many of us have really done these things in our life? How many of us have examined ourselves, our speech, and our ability to be quiet as wisdom instead of our ability to speak on a matter? Because many of us think that because we're speaking on it, that shows wisdom. But maybe because you're not speaking on it, it's showing wisdom. So I ask you to examine yourself. I ask you to really look at the scriptures that we talked about today, the meditation that we did today, and say, wow, I could do better. I could learn a little subtle art and a new skill. I could learn to shut up. Never thought of that one. I could learn to hold my tongue on Facebook because a lot of people look real stupid in their posts when they can't spell, when they're speaking on a subject matter that they're not knowledgeable of, or just speaking about it at all because who cares? Live your life. Enjoy your day. What you saying really ain't that beneficial to the rest of the world. Some of us have to realize that. I'm going to look at my post and see if that's me. Maybe I'm cutting myself. So, let's see. I want to challenge you to share the broadcast. I want 100 likes, 100 shares on the broadcast if I can get that today. I need 100 subscribers to YouTube today. But what I really want to challenge you, because that was just a little plug to get a little bit more traction. What I really want to challenge you to is the subtle art of shutting up. Try exercising what the scriptures have told us today. You know what? I'm not even going to argue with you today. You know what? I don't know enough about that subject to talk about that right now. You know what? I don't want to look like a fool with you. Let me not do that. Let me just wait on the right opportunity. I challenge you to do that today. This is Midweek Meditations, and I pray that it was useful for you today. I pray that you get something out of it. I pray that it benefits not only you, but your friends and your family. I pray that this is something that you can revisit over and over again, because the goal of the scriptures is not to just know them, not to just be Precepticons, not to just be able to regurgitate a scripture, but to be able to use and apply them to make our lives better. And if you are able to take something from today's meditation and make your life better, then I am thankful that the Lord used me to help you. So with that, that's Midweek Meditations. I thank you for coming in today. I pray that you were able to get something out of it. Please go back and look at Bible Trivia Tuesday. There's a lot of people getting a lot of helpful study, prodding, if you will, out of that, because what I'm trying to do with Midweek Meditations is encourage you to read more, encourage you to get the context of the story. Don't just get 1,000 precepts. Take 5 precepts, read the story, and learn about that subject in entirety, as opposed to just looking for precepts that say the same word. Get the context. Okay, so I'm going to put up the social media icons bigger for you again. Please subscribe to the Twitter and the Instagram and the Facebook and Periscope and Pinterest, and please go to YouTube so I can get the custom handle, and I will put that on here as well going forward. So with that, I say shalom. I pray everyone's in the spirit, and we'll see you again next week, same time, same place. All right, shalom.